Have you ever noticed that some people walk into a room and instantly command attention? That certain individuals speak and everyone leans in to listen? What separates these people from the rest isn't their wealth, their title, or their physical appearance. It's something far more powerful, something you already possess within you, waiting to be awakened. Respect isn't given, it's earned. And the most powerful form of respect begins with the respect you have for yourself. This fundamental truth has transformed countless lives, including my own. Years ago, I worked at a department store making minimum wage. I remember looking at my paycheck and thinking, this can't be all there is. But here's what changed everything. I realized I wasn't getting what I wanted because I hadn't become the person who deserved it. My income wasn't going to change until I changed. That single shift in perspective, taking full responsibility for my circumstances, was the turning point that altered the entire trajectory of my life. What about you? Are you waiting for circumstances to change while refusing to change yourself? Are you blaming the economy, your upbringing, your boss, or your lack of opportunities? The painful truth is that as long as you place responsibility elsewhere, you give away your power to create change. The first powerful way to command instant respect is this. Take 100% responsibility for your life. No excuses, no blame, no justification. When you fully embrace this principle, something remarkable happens. People notice. They may not consciously register what's different about you, but they sense your unwavering accountability. You become someone who says what they'll do and does what they say. You become someone who acknowledges mistakes without defensive explanations. You become someone who focuses on solutions rather than problems. I remember meeting a young man named Robert who worked in a factory. He told me how he'd spent years complaining about his job, his pay, his coworkers. Nothing will change until management changes, he'd say. Then one day he asked himself a simple question. What if I'm the problem? That question led him to shift his entire approach. He started coming in 15 minutes early. He began offering solutions instead of complaints. He volunteered for the projects nobody wanted. Within 6 months, his supervisors noticed. Within a year, he was promoted to team lead. Within 2 years, he was in management. What changed? Not the company, not his coworkers. Robert changed. He took responsibility. Ask yourself, where in your life are you still making excuses? Where are you still blaming others? Where are you still waiting for circumstances to change before you change? The moment you truly accept responsibility is the moment you gain power. It's also the moment you begin to command genuine respect from others. They sense something different in you. A solidity, a reliability, a trustworthiness that can't be faked. Now, taking responsibility doesn't mean taking blame for everything that happens to you. It means taking responsibility for how you respond to everything that happens to you. There's a critical difference. Bad things happen to good people. Unfairness exists, but your response is always your choice. I met a woman who lost everything in a natural disaster. Her home, her possessions, even family photographs, all gone. When I asked how she was coping, she said something I'll never forget. I can't control what happened, but I can control what happens next. That attitude commanded instant respect from everyone who met her. Not pity, respect. This brings us to the second powerful way to command respect. Develop uncommon discipline in an undisciplined world. Discipline isn't popular. It's not exciting. It doesn't make headlines, but it quietly builds the foundation of every worthy achievement. And in a world where most people follow the path of least resistance, discipline stands out like a lighthouse on a dark shore. Let me be clear about what discipline really means. It's not punishment. It's not deprivation. Discipline is simply doing what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. It's choosing the pain of discipline over the pain of regret. I had a mentor who taught me that discipline creates freedom. At first, this seemed contradictory. How could imposing constraints on myself create freedom? Then I understood. Undisciplined people are slaves to their impulses, their moods, their momentary desires. They live reactive lives, bouncing from one emotion to the next, one distraction to another. Disciplined people are different. They've learned to master themselves, and in that mastery they find true freedom. The freedom to achieve their goals, to maintain their health, to build wealth, to deepen relationships. Self-mastery is the highest form of freedom. What disciplines are you currently practicing? Are you controlling your time, or is your time controlling you? Are you managing your finances, or are your finances managing you? Are you guiding your thoughts, or are your thoughts guiding you? The respect that discipline commands isn't immediate. It builds slowly, consistently, day after day. It's the respect that comes when people notice you're the one who shows up prepared, who meets deadlines without reminders, who maintains standards when others cut corners. I know a salesman who committed to making 10 calls every morning before handling any other tasks. Not some mornings, every morning. Not when he felt motivated, every single day. His colleagues called him obsessive. They said he needed to lighten up. 5 years later, he was earning 5 times their income. Now they ask him for advice. That's the power of discipline. The interesting thing about discipline is that it compounds. Small disciplines repeated with consistency every day lead to great achievements gained slowly over time. The magic is in the compounding. Consider the discipline of saving. If you save just $100 per month with a modest return, in 40 years you'll have over $150,000. But it's not just about the money. It's about who you become through the process of being disciplined enough to save consistently. Or consider the discipline of continuous learning. Reading just 10 pages of a good book every day means you'll read about 15 books per year. In a decade, that's 150 books. How much wiser, more insightful, more valuable will you be having? Read 150 more books than the average person. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, and people respect accomplishment. But here's what most people miss about discipline. It's not about white-knuckling your way through life. Sustainable discipline comes from clarity about your values and vision. When you know why you're doing something, when the purpose is compelling enough, discipline becomes natural. I remember struggling with the discipline of regular exercise. I'd start and stop. Then I connected exercise to my deeper values, being there for my family, maintaining independence as I age, having the energy to contribute meaningfully. Suddenly exercise wasn't just about looking better. It was about living better, and that connection made discipline easier. What are your deeper values? How does discipline serve those values? When you connect discipline to purpose, you transform obligation into opportunity. The respect that comes from discipline isn't just from others. It starts with self-respect. Every time you do what you said you would do, you make a deposit in your personal integrity account. Every time you follow through on commitments to yourself, you build self-trust. And when you respect yourself, others naturally follow suit. There's a woman I know who decided to get up at 5 a.m. every day to work on her novel before her family awoke. Nobody saw her do this. Nobody knew about her commitment. But she kept her promise to herself day after day, page after page. 2 years later, when her book was published, people were amazed. How did you find the time? They asked. They didn't see the hundreds of early mornings. They didn't see the discipline. They just saw the result. And they respected her for it. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's the quiet decisions you make when nobody's watching. It's choosing the apple instead of the cookie, the book instead of the television show, the savings account instead of the impulse purchase. These small choices don't feel significant in the moment, but they reveal your character, and character commands respect. Think about the most respected people in your life. I'll bet they're disciplined. I'll bet they do what needs to be done without drama or complaint. I'll bet they're reliable, consistent, trustworthy. These qualities don't happen by accident. They're the result of disciplined living. The beautiful thing about discipline is that it's available to everyone. You don't need special talents or advantages. You just need to decide. You can start building discipline today, right now, with your very next choice. Start small. Don't try to revolutionize your entire life overnight. Pick one area, your morning routine, your work habits, your health practices, and establish discipline there. Once that becomes automatic, add another area. Discipline begets discipline. Remember that discipline isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. You'll have days when you fall short. That's not failure. It's feedback. The disciplined person gets back on track without self-condemnation. They simply recommit and continue. When you develop uncommon discipline, you stand out. In a world where most people seek comfort over growth, immediate gratification over delayed satisfaction, and the easy path over the right path, your discipline becomes your signature. It becomes a quiet statement about who you are and what you value, and that commands respect. Taking full responsibility and developing uncommon discipline form the foundation of respect. These principles aren't flashy or complicated, they're fundamental. They're timeless. They work regardless of your circumstances, background, or natural abilities. The most powerful forms of respect aren't demanded. They're earned. And they're earned through consistent, principled action over time. Not through manipulation or impression management, but through genuine character development. What would change in your life if you eliminated all excuses? What would be possible if you developed just 10% more discipline? How would others' perception of you shift if you became known as someone who takes responsibility and follows through? These aren't rhetorical questions. Your answers determine your future. The foundation of respect begins with these two powerful principles. Take 100% responsibility for your life and develop uncommon discipline in an undisciplined world. Master these, and you're well on your way to commanding the kind of respect that opens doors, builds trust, and creates opportunities. But there's more to commanding respect than personal accountability and discipline. How you communicate, both verbally and non-verbally, plays a crucial role in how others perceive and respect you. And that brings us to the third powerful way to command instant respect. The third powerful way to command instant respect is to master the art of communication. Not just any communication, but communication that resonates with depth and authenticity. Words carry tremendous power. The way you speak reveals your thinking, reflects your character, and shapes how others perceive you. Most people use language carelessly. They react, they ramble, they repeat what they've heard without consideration. But those who command respect understand that communication is an art form deserving of mastery. Have you noticed how respected individuals speak with intention? They choose their words carefully. They listen more than they talk. They ask thoughtful questions. They speak with clarity and conviction, without aggression or apology. I learned this lesson from a carpenter who worked on my first home. He wasn't formally educated, but when he spoke, everyone on the job site stopped to listen. I asked him once about this influence he seemed to have. His answer was profound in its simplicity. I never say anything unless it improves on silence. Think about that. How much of what we say truly improves on silence? How often do we speak to fill space, to assert ourselves, to hear our own? Respected communicators understand the power of thoughtful speech and purposeful silence. This doesn't mean you must become quiet or reserved. Some of the most respected communicators are animated and expressive. What matters is substance, whether your words carry meaning, truth, and value. Communication that commands respect has several key components. First, it's honest. People respect truth tellers, even when the truth is difficult, especially when the truth is difficult. In a world full of half-truths and convenient omissions, honest communication stands out. I know a business owner who made a serious mistake that cost his company a major client. In the company meeting, he could have blamed market conditions, the client's unreasonable demands, or his team's performance. Instead, he said simply, "I made the wrong call. I misjudged the situation, and it cost us. Here's what I learned, and here's what we'll do differently going forward." His team didn't lose respect for him, they gained respect. His honesty commanded it. The second component of respected communication is clarity. Confused communication reflects confused thinking. Clear communication cuts through noise and gets to the heart of the matter. It doesn't hide behind jargon or complexity. I once attended a presentation by a renowned expert in his field. For an hour he used specialized terminology and convoluted explanations. People nodded as if they understood, but confusion hung in the air. Then a young woman asked him to explain his main point in simple terms. He couldn't do it. In that moment, respect diminished. Knowledge without clarity has limited value. The third component is empathy. Communication that commands respect acknowledges the perspectives, needs, and feelings of others. It demonstrates that you've considered more than just your own viewpoint. Empathetic communicators ask questions that show genuine interest. They validate concerns before offering solutions. They speak to the heart as well as the mind. I remember watching a manager address his team during a company restructuring. Jobs were at stake. Tension filled the room. He could have focused solely on the business case, the numbers, the strategic rationale. Instead, he began by saying, "I know you're worried about your jobs, your families, your futures. Those concerns are valid. I share them. Let's talk about what this means for each of you before we discuss what it means for the company." By acknowledging their fears first, he earned the right to be heard. Finally, respected communication is consistent. Your words and actions align. You don't say one thing in public and another in private. You don't make promises you can't keep. This consistency builds trust, and trust is the foundation of respect. Mastering communication isn't about manipulation or persuasion tactics. It's about developing the ability to express truth effectively, to listen generously, and to connect authentically. When you communicate with honesty, clarity, empathy, and consistency, people don't just hear your words, they feel your character. But here's what you must understand about communication. It's not just what you say, it's what you do. Which brings us to the fourth powerful way to command instant respect. Align your actions with your values. Nothing erodes respect faster than hypocrisy, saying one thing and doing another. Nothing builds respect more surely than integrity, the seamless alignment between what you claim to value and how you actually live. I'm reminded of a father who constantly told his children about the importance of reading. Books are the gateway to success, he'd say. But they never saw him read, not once. Then he wondered why his children showed little interest in books. The misalignment between his words and actions undermined his message and diminished their respect. Contrast this with another parent who rarely lectured about reading but kept books throughout the house and spent every evening engaged with a book herself. Her children grew up to be readers. They respected her example more than they would have respected her lectures. People watch what you do more carefully than they listen to what you say. Your daily actions broadcast your true values at a volume that drowns out your words. What do your actions say about what you truly value? Do you claim to value health while neglecting your body? Do you claim to value relationships while consistently putting work first? Do you claim to value integrity while cutting small ethical corners? These misalignments may seem minor to you, but others notice them. And with each one, respect erodes. The process of aligning your actions with your values begins with clarity about what those values actually are. Most people have never taken the time to identify their core values. They live reactively, responding to whatever demands are loudest in the moment. Take time to identify your non-negotiable values. What principles are so central to who you are that violating them would mean betraying yourself? Is it honesty, courage, compassion, excellence, loyalty, freedom, justice? Once you've identified these core values, audit your life. Where are you in alignment? And where have you drifted? This isn't about perfection. It's about awareness and intention. I met a woman who claimed that family was her highest value, yet she routinely missed her children's events for work. When asked about this discrepancy, she was startled. She hadn't noticed the drift. Once aware, she reorganized her schedule, set clearer boundaries with her employer, and aligned her actions with her stated values. The respect from her family and her self-respect grew accordingly. Here's a critical insight. Value alignment isn't just about the big decisions. It's revealed in the small daily choices that most people dismiss as insignificant. Do you value punctuality? It shows in whether you're consistently on time. Do you value excellence? It shows in the care you bring to minor tasks. Do you value respect itself? It shows in how you treat the server at a restaurant or the janitor in your building. People who command respect understand that character isn't created in moments of great challenge. It's built in moments of small choice. And when the great challenges come, they simply reveal the character that's been forming all along. This brings us to an essential truth about commanding respect. Understanding life's patterns. Life operates according to principles that are just as reliable as physical laws like gravity. These principles govern cause and effect in our health, wealth, relationships, and character. Understanding these patterns gives us predictive power and personal power. The seasons of life follow predictable patterns. There are seasons of planting and seasons of harvesting. Seasons of intense growth and seasons of apparent dormancy. Seasons of abundance and seasons of scarcity. The person who fails to recognize these patterns becomes frustrated, impatient, or complacent at the wrong times. I know a young woman who quit 3 promising career paths because she couldn't recognize the pattern. She'd start with enthusiasm, encounter the inevitable challenges of the learning phase, interpret these challenges as evidence she'd made the wrong choice, and abandon the path. She never stayed in any pursuit long enough to reach the breakthrough phase. She never respected the seasons. Respected individuals understand that achievement follows a predictable pattern. Enthusiasm gives way to challenge, challenge gives way to doubt. Doubt gives way to growth, and growth gives way to mastery if you persist. But most people quit during the challenge or doubt phases. They plant seeds but leave the field before harvest. What patterns are at work in your life right now? Can you identify which season you're in with your major goals and relationships? Are you planting, tending, or harvesting? Are you respecting the natural progression or fighting against it? Beyond seasonal patterns, life also operates according to principles of cause and effect. The effects in your life today are the result of causes set in motion yesterday, last month, last year, or decades ago. The causes you set in motion today will produce effects tomorrow, next month, next year, and decades from now. This simple truth has profound implications. Most people focus on effects, the results, the symptoms, the outcomes they can see. They want better health, more money, stronger relationships. But these are effects. Respected individuals focus on causes, the habits, choices, beliefs, and actions that produce the effects. If you want to change the effects in your life, you must change the causes. If you want better health, change your daily health habits. If you want more wealth, change your daily financial habits. If you want stronger relationships, change your daily relationship habits. The causes you establish today determine the effects you experience tomorrow. Understanding these patterns reveals another powerful insight. Difficulties and opportunities cycle predictably through our lives, and our response determines our results. Every life includes setbacks, losses, and failures. Every life includes opportunities, advantages, and wins. What separates those who command respect from those who don't isn't the ratio of difficulties to opportunities they encounter. It's how they respond to each. I remember talking with two individuals who were laid off from the same company on the same day. The first person said, "This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I've given years to this company, and this is how they thank me." A year later, he was still unemployed, bitter, and telling the same story of victimhood. The second person said, "This isn't what I would have chosen, but maybe it's what I needed. I've been thinking about starting my own business for years. Now I have the push to do it." A year later, she had launched a successful consulting practice serving her former employer's competitors. Same event, different response, radically different outcomes. Respected individuals understand that difficulties often contain hidden opportunities, and opportunities often contain hidden difficulties. The way you frame an event, as a curse or a blessing, an ending or a beginning, largely determines what you'll extract from it. This perspective gives you resilience in hard times, and humility in good times. Both qualities command respect. Now, despite understanding these patterns, many people still engage in self-sabotaging behaviors that prevent success and undermine respect. Let's address these directly. The first self-sabotaging behavior is excuse-making. Excuses may provide temporary emotional comfort, but they exact a permanent price in lost opportunity and diminished respect. Every excuse you accept becomes a brick in the wall between you and your potential. I worked with a talented writer who had a ready excuse for why he hadn't finished his book. "I don't have enough time." Yet he watched 3 hours of television daily. The problem wasn't lack of time, it was lack of priority. When he finally eliminated the excuse and committed to writing for 1 hour each morning before work, he finished his manuscript in 7 months. What excuses have become comfortable companions in your life? What story do you tell yourself and others about why you haven't achieved your goals? Whatever that excuse is, lack of time, lack of money, lack of education, lack of connections, bad luck, bad timing, bad circumstances. Someone else with the same limitation has succeeded despite it. The second self-sabotaging behavior is procrastination. Putting off important actions doesn't just delay results, it reveals character flaws that erode respect. Procrastination signals a lack of self-discipline, a lack of clarity about priorities, or a lack of honesty about intentions. I know a business owner who procrastinated on making necessary but difficult staffing changes. He knew certain employees weren't performing, but he dreaded the confrontation. His avoidance didn't just delay the inevitable, it communicated to his entire team that mediocrity was acceptable. By the time he finally acted, the damage to morale and respect was substantial. Procrastination often wears the mask of perfectionism or busyness. "I'll start when conditions are ideal," or "I'll get to it when things calm down." But ideal conditions never arrive, and things never calm down. Action in imperfect conditions beats perfect inaction every time. The third self-sabotaging behavior is blame. When you blame others for your circumstances or results, you position yourself as a victim. And while victims may receive sympathy, they rarely receive respect. Blame comes in many forms. Sometimes it's obvious, "My boss is holding me back," or "The economy ruined my business." Sometimes it's subtle. I would have succeeded if only, or it's not fair that others had advantages I didn't have. But here's the truth about blame. Even when it's partially justified, it's rarely useful. Even when others have contributed to your difficulties, focusing on their contribution keeps you stuck. Focusing on your response creates movement. The mentality of success contrasts sharply with the mentality of mediocrity. Success thinks, what can I do with what I have from where I am right now? Mediocrity thinks, what's missing that prevents me from moving forward? Success says, I am responsible. Mediocrity says, they are responsible. Success asks, what lesson can I learn? Mediocrity asks, who can I blame? Success declares, I will find a way. Mediocrity complains, I can't find a way. The contrast couldn't be clearer, and the respect commanded by each mentality couldn't be more different. Eliminating these self-sabotaging behaviors requires honest self-assessment and deliberate choice. It requires trading short-term comfort for long-term growth. It requires taking the harder path not once, but consistently. The patterns that govern life are neutral. They don't care about your intentions, your past, or your potential. They respond only to your actions. Understanding these patterns and aligning your behavior accordingly is the surest path to results that command respect. And this brings us to the fifth and final powerful way to command instant respect. The fifth powerful way to command instant respect is to create extraordinary value for others. In a world focused on getting, those who focus on giving stand apart. Value creation isn't just a noble ideal, it's a practical strategy for commanding respect. When you consistently contribute more than you take, when you solve problems that matter to others, when you make people's lives better through your efforts, respect naturally follows. This principle operates across every domain of life. In business, the companies most respected aren't those that extract the most value, but those that create the most value. In personal relationships, the most respected individuals aren't those who demand the most, but those who contribute the most. In communities, the most respected members aren't those who take the most resources, but those who give the most service. I learned this lesson from a taxi driver who picked me up at an airport during a snowstorm. Throughout our journey, he pointed out landmarks, offered recommendations for local restaurants, and shared fascinating stories about the city's history. As we approached my hotel, he said, I know you're paying me for transportation, but I believe my real job is to make your day better than it was before you got in my cab. That simple philosophy, adding value beyond what's expected, had earned him a loyal client base that kept him busier than other drivers during slow seasons. It had earned him respect from customers who requested him specifically. It had transformed a commodity service into something memorable and valuable. What about you? Are you focused more on what you can get or what you can give? Are you concerned more with what the market owes you or what you can offer the market? Are you oriented more toward extraction or contribution? The irony is that those who focus primarily on getting rarely get as much as those who focus primarily on giving. Value creation leads to value reception. Contribution leads to compensation. Giving leads to getting. This isn't mystical, it's mathematical. The more problems you solve for others, the more valuable you become to others. But there's a critical distinction here. Creating value isn't about people-pleasing or self-sacrifice. It's about finding the intersection between your abilities and others' needs. It's about leveraging your unique strengths to address real problems. That intersection is where respect and reward meet. I know a woman who left a high-paying corporate job to start a business teaching financial literacy to disadvantaged communities. Her income initially dropped dramatically. Her former colleagues thought she'd made a terrible career move. But she understood that creating authentic value would ultimately lead to both impact and income. 3 years later, her business is thriving. She's developed curricula for schools, consulting services for nonprofits, and training programs for corporations wanting to support community financial health. She earns more than she did in her corporate role, but more importantly, she commands genuine respect from clients, students, and even her former skeptical colleagues. Her secret? She solved a real problem that mattered to others using her unique combination of skills, knowledge, and passion. She created extraordinary value. What unique value can you create? What problems can you solve? What needs can you meet? What pain points can you address? Find those answers, and you'll find a path to both respect and results. Creating value requires understanding what others truly value, not what you think they should value or what you would value in their position, but what they actually value based on their needs, desires, and circumstances. This understanding comes from genuine curiosity and attentive listening. It comes from asking better questions and paying attention to the answers. It comes from empathy, the ability to see the world through others' eyes. A young architect learned this lesson the hard way. He designed what he considered a brilliant office building, innovative, aesthetically striking, technically impressive. But he failed to understand what his client actually valued: functionality, energy efficiency, and ease of maintenance. The client rejected his design, and the architect lost both the project and respect. When he finally asked the right questions and listened to the answers, he created a design that balanced his technical expertise with the client's practical needs. That building won awards, but more importantly, it won him the respect of his client and additional projects. The most respected contributors don't impose their vision of value. They co-create value through understanding and collaboration. They ask, what matters to you, and how can I help with that, rather than declaring, here's what should matter to you, and here's what I'll do about it. This collaborative approach requires humility, the recognition that your perspective is limited and that others have knowledge, experience, and insights you lack. Humility might seem paradoxical in a discussion about commanding respect, but true humility isn't thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. It's focusing on the problem to be solved rather than the credit to be gained. The most respected experts aren't those who know all the answers. They're those who ask the best questions and listen intently to the responses. They're those who acknowledge the limits of their knowledge and remain open to learning. They're those who give credit generously and take responsibility readily. Creating extraordinary value also requires continuous improvement. The problems worth solving evolve. The needs worth meeting change. The skills required to address them advance. Respected individuals don't rest on past achievements or rely on outdated approaches. They commit to ongoing growth. I met a consultant who had been highly successful using methods he developed 20 years earlier. For a time he commanded respect in his industry. But as the business landscape changed, he insisted that his approach was still best. He dismissed new research, rejected new tools, and criticized new methodologies. Gradually his client base dwindled. His influence waned. The respect he once commanded eroded. Contrast this with another consultant who regularly invested time and resources in learning new approaches. She tested emerging methods, integrated useful innovations, and evolved her practice. When clients faced new challenges, she brought fresh solutions. Her adaptability and commitment to improvement maintained and increased the respect she commanded, even as her industry transformed. The message is clear: to create extraordinary value consistently, you must grow consistently. You must develop new skills, acquire new knowledge, gain new insights. You must become more valuable tomorrow than you are today. What's your plan for growth? How are you upgrading your ability to create value? What skills are you developing? What knowledge are you acquiring? What experiences are you seeking? Your answers reveal whether you're positioning yourself to command increasing or decreasing respect over time. Now, these 5 powerful ways to command respect: taking full responsibility, developing uncommon discipline, mastering communication, aligning actions with values, and creating extraordinary value, aren't theoretical concepts. They're practical principles that must be applied daily to be effective. They must become habits, not just insights. This brings us to the specific daily disciplines that create extraordinary results. These are the concrete actions that transform abstract principles into tangible outcomes. These are the practices that separate those who merely understand respect from those who actually command it. The first daily discipline is intentional learning. Respected individuals allocate time every day for growth. They read substantive books, they pursue relevant training, they seek instructive feedback, they reflect on their experiences, they extract lessons from both successes and failures. They recognize that education isn't an event that ends with formal schooling. It's a lifelong process of continuous improvement. I know a business leader who reads for 30 minutes every morning before opening email or beginning work. Over 30 years, this habit has given her an extraordinary knowledge base that informs her decisions, enriches her thinking, and enhances her leadership. The respect she commands comes partly from this accumulated wisdom and her commitment to expanding it daily. What's your learning routine? Do you have one? If not, start small, but start today. Read 10 pages of a worthwhile book. Listen to a substantive podcast while commuting. Take an online course in a relevant skill. The specific method matters less than the consistency of application. The second daily discipline is purpose-driven planning. Respected individuals don't drift through their days reacting to whatever demands attention. They direct their days according to clear priorities and purpose. They decide in advance what matters most and allocate their time accordingly. This discipline begins the night before or first thing in the morning. It involves reviewing your values, considering your major goals, identifying your most important tasks, and scheduling your time to reflect these priorities. It's about being proactive rather than reactive with your most precious resource, your time. A study of highly successful individuals found that 85% use some form of intentional planning to guide their days. They didn't necessarily follow rigid schedules, but they had clarity about what mattered most and arranged their time to reflect that clarity. This intentionality was a key factor in both their achievement and the respect they commanded. How do you approach your days? Do you plan with purpose or react to whatever seems urgent? Do you control your time, or does your time control you? Your answer reveals much about your potential to command respect. The third daily discipline is relationship cultivation. Respected individuals invest consistently in key relationships. They make time for meaningful conversations. They remember important details. They follow through on commitments. They express genuine appreciation. They address conflicts directly rather than avoiding them. These aren't manipulative techniques to win favor. They're authentic practices that build trust. And trust is the foundation of lasting respect. I know a sales professional who dedicates 30 minutes each day to what he calls relationship care, sending thoughtful notes, making brief check-in calls, sharing relevant articles or resources with clients and colleagues. He's not asking for anything in these interactions. He's adding value. The result is a network of people who respect him, trust him, and think of him first when opportunities arise. Which relationships deserve your consistent investment? Your family, your team, your clients, your community? The specific relationships will vary based on your circumstances and season of life, but the principle remains: meaningful relationships require intentional cultivation. The fourth daily discipline is physical renewal. The connection between physical vitality and commanded respect might not be immediately obvious, but it's real and significant. When you're energetic, alert, and healthy, you show up differently in every interaction. Your presence is stronger. Your thinking is clearer. Your emotional resilience is greater. This discipline includes basics like adequate sleep, proper nutrition, regular exercise, and stress management. These aren't luxuries or indulgences. They're essential investments in your capacity to create value and command respect. A CEO I know prioritizes physical activity every day, regardless of his schedule's demands. He says, "The busier I am, the more I need the clear thinking and energy that comes from exercise." His discipline in this area contributes to his stamina, his decision-making quality, and ultimately the respect he commands as a leader. How are you managing your physical energy? Are you treating your body as the foundation of your capacity to contribute? Your physical habits affect not just your health but your impact and the respect you command. The fifth daily discipline is reflective review. At the end of each day, respected individuals take time to evaluate their actions and results. They ask questions like, did I live according to my values today? Did I make progress on my most important goals? What did I learn? What could I improve? This practice accelerates growth by converting experience into insight. Without reflection, we may have 20 years of experience, or we may have 1 year of experience repeated 20 times. Reflection is what transforms activity into learning, and learning into wisdom. A judge I know spends 15 minutes each evening reviewing his day, focusing particularly on his interactions with others. Did I listen fully? Did I show appropriate respect? Did I communicate clearly? This habitual reflection has refined his judicial temperament and increased the respect he commands in his courtroom. Do you reflect regularly on your actions and their alignment with your values and goals? Do you extract lessons from your daily experiences? This simple practice, consistently applied, compounds into remarkable growth over time. These 5 daily disciplines: intentional learning, purpose-driven planning, relationship cultivation, physical renewal, and reflective review, form the foundation of a life that commands respect. They're not complicated, but they're not common either. Most people know these practices matter. Few implement them consistently. And that's the key insight about commanding respect. It doesn't come from knowing what others don't know. It comes from doing what others don't do. It comes from consistent application of basic principles that most people understand, but few people implement. The gap between knowing and doing is wide. Most people know they should take responsibility, develop discipline, communicate effectively, align their actions with their values, and create value for others. But knowledge without application produces little result and commands little respect. The good news is that you can start closing this gap today. You can begin implementing these principles immediately. You don't need special talents, advantages, connections, or circumstances. You just need to decide and then do. If you take full responsibility for your life, no excuses, no blame, no justification, you immediately separate yourself from the majority who place responsibility elsewhere. That alone commands respect. If you develop uncommon discipline in an undisciplined world, you immediately distinguish yourself from the masses who follow the path of least resistance. That alone commands respect. If you master communication that resonates with authenticity and substance, you immediately stand apart from those who speak without thought or purpose. That alone commands respect. If you align your actions with your values, creating congruence between what you say and what you do, you immediately differentiate yourself from those living in contradiction. That alone commands respect. If you create extraordinary value for others, focusing on contribution rather than extraction, you immediately rise above those concerned primarily with what they can get. That alone commands respect. These principles are transformative individually. Applied together, they create an extraordinary life, a life of impact, achievement, meaning, and respect. Remember where we started. Have you ever noticed that some people walk into a room and instantly command attention, that certain individuals speak, and everyone leans in to listen? What separates these people from the rest isn't their wealth, their title, or their physical appearance. It's something far more powerful, something you already possess within you waiting to be awakened. It's the power of character expressed through consistent action. It's the result of small disciplines practiced daily. It's the fruit of principles applied faithfully. The respect these individuals command isn't accidental. It isn't mysterious. It isn't reserved for a select few born with special gifts or advantages. It's available to anyone willing to pay the price of principled living and disciplined action. And that includes you. Starting today, you can begin commanding the respect you desire and deserve, not through manipulation or impression management, but through genuine character development. Not through demanding respect, but through becoming the kind of person worthy of respect. The choice is yours. The opportunity is present. The potential is within you. What will you do with it?